I'm 28 now, and for most of my life I would have told you I grew up normal, quiet even. Two parents who stayed together, a younger sister, a dog that lived longer than expected. We lived in a split-level house on a dead-end street in a mid-sized town in northern Colorado. Not rural, not suburban in the cookie-cutter sense either. The kind of place where people left their porch lights on all night and waved when they drove past. My dad worked in commercial HVAC. My mom taught third grade. I rode my bike in loops around the cul-de-sac, came home when the streetlights flicked on, did homework at the kitchen table while my mom cooked. That kind of childhood. Our house sat slightly lower than the rest on the street. Not enough to be obvious, but enough that rainwater always seemed to pool near our driveway. The backyard backed up to a narrow strip of undeveloped land, just trees, brush, and a shallow drainage ditch that filled during heavy rain. No trails, no paths, just weeds and cottonwoods. My bedroom was in the basement level, half underground, with a narrow window that looked out at that strip of land. I liked it. It stayed cool in the summer, quiet at night. When I was a kid, I used to press my face against the glass and watch moths bump against it after dark. The first thing that ever felt off happened when I was 11. I remember because it was the summer before middle school, and I'd just gotten my first cheap flip phone. It was early July, hot enough that my parents left the windows open at night. I woke up around 2 a.m. needing to use the bathroom. As I was walking down the hallway, I noticed the light in the laundry room was on. That wasn't unusual by itself. My dad sometimes did laundry late, but what stopped me was the sound. The washing machine wasn't running. There was just this steady clicking sound, like someone tapping a fingernail against metal at a slow, deliberate pace. I stood there longer than I should have, listening. When I finally leaned in and looked, the room was empty. The light was on, the door to the backyard was locked like always, and the sound stopped the moment I stepped inside. I turned the light off and went back to bed, annoyed more than scared. The next morning, my mom asked who'd been doing laundry so late. My dad said it wasn't him. We laughed it off. Old house, pipes, something like that. Nothing else happened for a long time after that. Years, really. Middle school, high school, normal stuff. I forgot about the laundry room entirely. If you'd asked me at 16 whether I believed in anything strange or unexplained, I would have said no without hesitation. The second incident happened when I was 17. By then, I had my driver's license, a part-time job at a grocery store, and the kind of confidence that comes with thinking you understand how the world works. It was late October, already cold at night. I'd gotten home around 11:30 p.m. after closing shift. As I pulled into the driveway, my headlights swept across the backyard like they always did, except this time, they caught something reflective near the tree line. Just a quick glint, like glass. I shut the car off and sat there for a second, squinting. When I turned the headlights back on, the reflection was gone. I grabbed my phone and used the flashlight, scanning through the back window. Nothing. I told myself it was probably an animal's eyes or a bottle someone had tossed back there. Still, I didn't like it. I locked the car and went inside. The next morning, my dad asked if I'd been messing around in the backyard late at night. I told him no. He said one of the motion lights had come on around midnight, stayed on for almost 10 minutes, then shut off. The camera hadn't recorded anything because, according to him, there hadn't been enough movement to trigger it properly. That bothered him more than it did me. I was already late for school and didn't give it much thought. Over the next few years, things stayed quiet. I graduated high school, went to college out of state, came back for holidays. Every time I returned home, the house felt the same. Familiar. Safe. If anything strange had been happening, I wasn't around to notice it. It wasn't until after I graduated college and moved back in temporarily to save money that things started to form a pattern. I was 22 then, working an entry-level job and sleeping in my old basement room again.
That narrow window still faced the trees. One night in early March, I woke up to the sound of footsteps overhead. That alone wasn't strange. My parents were early risers, but when I checked my phone, it was 3:14 a.m.
The footsteps weren't random. They moved from one end of the house to the other, paused, then came back. Slow, even, like someone pacing. I lay there listening, telling myself it was my dad restless with work stress. The pacing went on for nearly 20 minutes before it stopped. In the morning, I casually asked him if he'd been up late. He looked confused and said he'd been asleep by 10. After that, I started noticing smaller things. The gate to the backyard would be unlatched in the mornings. Our dog would growl at the window at night, hackles raised, staring at the trees. Once, I found muddy footprints near the drainage ditch, half washed away like someone had tried to step lightly. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to be the paranoid adult child living back at home. The physical discovery happened that summer. My dad was replacing a rotted fence post near the back corner of the yard. I was helping him dig when my shovel hit something solid that wasn't rock. He told me to clear around it. Buried about 6 inches down was a small plastic casing, black and rectangular, about the size of a deck of cards. When we pulled it free, I recognized it immediately. A battery-powered trail camera. It wasn't one of ours. It faced directly toward the house. The battery was dead. There was no SD card inside. The mounting strap was still attached, muddy and frayed, like it had been tied to something and then buried intentionally. My dad didn't yell. He didn't panic. He just stared at it for a long time, jaw tight, then told me to put it in a plastic bag. He didn't call the police. When I asked why, he said there wasn't much to report. No footage, no proof, no idea how long it had been there. He said anyone could have dumped it. Kids, someone messing around. But the way he avoided eye contact told me he didn't believe that. That night, I overheard my parents arguing in their bedroom, low voices. My name came up more than once. When I asked about it the next day, my mom said they were just stressed about money. She smiled too quickly. Things escalated in ways that were harder to ignore. The motion lights started activating more often, always between 2 and 4 a.m. Sometimes they stayed on long enough to wake the dog. The cameras still never caught anything useful, just fog, drifting leaves, bugs passing too close to the lens. Once, I thought I saw a shape at the edge of the frame, but when I showed my dad, he paused the footage and said it was just compression artifacting. The interaction that changed everything happened in November. I was home alone, parents out to dinner, sister visiting friends. Around 9 p.m., someone knocked on the front door. That alone startled me. We didn't get unexpected visitors. I looked through the peephole and saw a man I didn't recognize. Mid-40s, maybe? Plain jacket, baseball cap, hands in his pockets. I didn't open the door. I asked who it was. He said he was with the city, checking drainage access behind properties that bordered the greenbelt. That was odd because we'd lived there for over 20 years and I'd never heard of inspections like that happening door to door at night. I told him my parents weren't home. There was a long pause. Then he said, "That's fine. Just tell them we stopped by." His tone was calm, polite, too calm. When my parents got home, I told them everything. My dad went pale. He asked me to describe the man again, then went out back with a flashlight, even though it was dark and cold. He came back inside 10 minutes later and locked every door without saying a word. After that, I started sleeping with my phone on record. I didn't catch much. Static, the hum of the house. Once, faint footsteps that might have been my imagination. But there was one night, December 3rd, 2:41 a.m., where the audio picked up a sound I still can't explain. It was like breathing. Not loud, close,
as if someone were standing just outside my window, exhaling slowly. The final incident happened last spring. I was driving home from work just after sunset. As I turned onto our street, I saw a car parked near the drainage ditch entrance, hazard lights off, engine running. It wasn't a neighbor's car. I slowed as I passed. The driver's window was down. I couldn't see the person clearly, just a silhouette. As my headlights hit the side mirror, the person turned their head toward me. I recognized the jacket. Plain, dark. The same one I'd seen months earlier at the front door.
I didn't stop. I didn't look back. When I pulled into the driveway, the motion lights were already on, flooding the backyard with harsh, white light. There was nothing there. No car. No movement. Just the trees swaying gently like they always had. I moved out 2 weeks later. I don't know what any of it means. I don't know if it was one person or several, if it was intentional or random, if my parents know more than they've ever told me. All I know is that when I drive past that house now, I don't look toward the backyard anymore. Because sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I swear I still see something reflective near the tree line, waiting for the lights to turn off.